Hello, Shane. How you doing?
Good, Gary. Welcome to my attic.
I'm just looking at it there. You look very relaxed there. Are you just back from a 24-kilometer run or something?
Just the seven this morning, actually.
Are you in Dublin?
I am in Dublin on the edge of the park, the Phoenix Park, that is.
And what's it like?
It's funny, actually. Up until the elevated measures, we'll call them, it was getting a bit uncomfortable with the amount of people getting close. So they have lots of smiley faces painted on the ground now with 2 meters wide apart to keep your social distance. But yeah, I suppose over the last few days now, people are far more conscious of getting out of the way, and
Yeah.
it's strange for a very busy place normally, but it's fantastic as well at the same time. There's an awful lot of families there, just dads out with the kids. It's usually the mams, or it's usually gangs of lads on bikes, but an awful lot of family get-togethers being seen there.
Of course, you've got very young children.
I've got a 1.5-year-old. Yeah. So yeah, look at to start off, we're all doing fine here, really. To be honest, in the grand scheme of things, we have very little to complain about. My wife is a primary school teacher, so she's one of those ones that has been sent home and told to sit in her thumbs. She's doing her best to be able to keep kids occupied with all sorts of lessons and not drive parents completely demented. But
Yeah.
yeah, so between the two of us, we're trying to juggle the 1.5-year-old. And
Tabby McTat has had a few runs, and the Gruffalo, I guess.
oh Jesus, the Gruffalo! Yeah, I could almost recite it word for word now.
Have you learned anything about yourself that you thought, it's a time for self-reflection and all these types of things? Have you genuinely learned anything about yourself?
Well, I suppose there's things I've learned, and then there's things I've been told. Honestly, the most poignant one is that it's funny and somewhat depressing that it takes a crisis of being away from people for you to get closer to people. We've made a routine now of video calling my parents every day with the little lad,
Mm.
and same for my wife's parents, and same for my siblings as well. We would rarely speak that often, but for some reason now, because we're all isolated and we all have far more time on our hands, we're actually getting an opportunity to chat more, and it's a positive in the negative. And I've also learned that this is actually the longest consecutive period that myself and my wife have actually been together without me spending a night in a hotel away or
Okay.
traveling to work. So after 12 years, it's interesting.
She won't be watching this. You can say anything you want. But in
No.
terms of on terms of the sort of the team you mentioned there about your team, obviously you're part of a global team working in a global industry. Has everybody globally adapted at the same level? Is everybody as technologically proficient, or there's no choice?
Uh,
It'll have to be.
we've all, I suppose, Tate, as part of the Kingspan group, we've all taken instruction from the top, and the instruction has been very clear that, guys, we're in this for a very difficult period now, and it's all shoulders to the wheel. But difficult decisions have had to be made at local levels across various geographical regions, because some locations it's absolute lockdown, some locations it's far more fluid. And we've some divisions of the Kingspan group that are providing to the HSE, the NHS, in building emergency hospitals and things. So the plants need to keep running, and everyone will need to feel like they're frontline staff. Within our Tate business itself, we're all about making data centers as energy efficient as possible. And now that the sector is being tested to
Yeah.
the maximum, I don't think it'll ever come in for more of a stress test than this. There's a surge of demand. It's like everyone's running out and buying toilet roll. Only for us, it's on a different product set. So yeah, look, we've all had to adapt. We're all working from home, but keeping the wheels of industry turning in the best fashion possible. And I think we're learning a lot of lessons as well. We had already gone into some R&D projects to try and create virtual training hubs. So we've had to fast track those now so that installation teams on sites can continue without myself or one of my colleagues going to be able to talk them through. So it's fast tracking, it's making people adapt. A lot of positives, but look, let's not forget, this is all positive in the shadow of what is actually happening. We're not in an ICU bed, and I think a lot of thought and pause has to be given to those.
It's interesting. One of the things that's come up consistently in these sessions that we're having is the exactly what you said. Yesterday, somebody described the people who work in the industry and around the industry, particularly in the operational side, that they're like astronauts. Why is that? Because actually astronauts train for failure. In a strange way, if you listen to an astronaut, he's not training for the success, he's training for the failure. What if? And this has been the opportunity for that infrastructure that you and Tate and Kingspan have been growing and building for the last 10 years, I guess, and possibly longer, to test it.
That's it, yeah. And yeah, it's testament to everyone involved that, you know, guys, we can bend and adapt and flex. It's going to be a long, difficult road to coming back to where we've all been, but you know, we'll all come out the far end stronger.
And obviously different parts of the world are opening up at different stages. You mentioned before we came on that South Korea and places like that are slowly returning to sort of ramp in, if that's the right word. And is that starting to see in your business pipeline as well? Is that there's other places actually actively on sites?
I suppose geographically, yes, there's markets that are opening up very slowly, but I suppose the nature of the construction sector and our local aspects of it here, okay, we may not be supplying as much to the actual construction sites, but the purchase orders are building up. Yeah. The pre-construction phases are plowing on faster than ever because architects and engineers are now actually able to devote the time and not have to be on site. We're going to have this accordion effect of project stages building up, and then it's just about being ready, primed when the release does happen. Personally, I think it's going to be a very slow ramp back up for everyone, both on a professional and a personal level. I don't think that there's going to be a bounce back that I suppose a lot of people are talking about. It's going to be slow, because if we're to take heed from what the HSE or the World Health Organization are saying, it's, guys, we're going to need to maintain our social distance until a vaccine is out there, and this is just the unknown that we're living in now. Yeah,
and I think your context, you only look about 15 years old, but you obviously have been here before, because you know the context that you're saying is that relative to others and relative to other geographies and relative to a lot, we're doing okay, and I think that's the way you can go through these things. You got to have more empathy, right?
Yeah, we've been slightly inconvenienced. Well, personally, I've been slightly inconvenienced. That's all I'm going to call it, because there's a hell of a lot of good stuff that I can claim from this. For the first time, I'm able to put my son to bed every night. You know, that to me is a privilege. But
not the growth though.
No, it's I won't go into this book we read, but I can definitely recite it from cover to cover, blindfolded.
Before we jump off, 3 words. What would you say? What are the 3 words to close out the session?
It's not about you or me. It's all about, I suppose, those people.
Thanks to the frontline workers.
That's it.
That's a great way to end it. Thank you so much. Stay safe. There is a great second book in the Gruffalo series you might be interested, delivered from Amazon.
Room on the Broom, is it?
You've been there already. Thanks a million, Shane. It's been a pleasure.